Hey y'all, Sherry G here. Welcome to the channel. So y'all already know I love the Fletchers having more airtime on Love and Marriage Huntsville. I really like experiencing them as individuals as they interact with the different castmates. I love watching them as a married couple, and I love that we got to experience them with their children and their niece. Granted, we've only experienced the family dinner when it comes to them being with the children and the niece outside of the conversation between Chris Sr. and Chris Jr. But I feel like even though what we've seen for the most part when it comes to the family dynamics has been confrontational, it's very real and relatable. During the family dinner scene, it looked to me like Chris Jr. shed a tear at the table during the dinner, and that he kind of wiped it away. And I found myself wondering what his true story was. Like, we know he was arrested. We know that Nell took the dogs to the vet, and, she paid for them to get whatever care it was that they were needing at that time. We know that, but we really don't know the real story, right? What happened? We don't know any of that. The conversation between Chris, or both of the Chris's, to me, it was very endearing. I loved seeing these men talk, father and son sharing a real moment. And honestly, I'm glad that the senior Chris wasn't too proud to shed a tear even. That touched me. In this video, I do want to talk mostly about that conversation, the conversation between the Chris's. I found it particularly interesting that some of the sentiments that Chris Jr. shared paralleled Lexi and her sentiments when it comes to the entire family. So anyway, y'all, Chris Jr., he stated that it was difficult talking with Nell also, and that he kind of shied away from coming around the whole family because he felt judged. So anyway, y'all, let me go ahead, drop my disclaimer, and then I'm going to come back and do some commentary. But before I do that, I am going to drop that clip because I want us to watch it and pay attention to the conversation. I don't know if you guys had a chance to just go back and revisit the scene, or, if you just watched it, thought what you thought and went on with it. I'm one who I like to watch, but then I like to go back and rewatch, just to see if there's anything that I missed, and to just really, really absorb what's going on and what's happening. So anyway, like I said, watching that scene between Chris Jr. and the senior Chris, I do feel that Chris Jr. and Alexis, or I think that's her name, Alexis, but anyway, they share some of the same sentiments. So let's go ahead and revisit the scene, and then I'll come back with my commentary. And keep in mind now that the views I express during my commentary is just my opinion. It's just my opinion, my way of seeing things. Everything's alleged, could be true, and it might not be true. So keep that in mind. And in the meantime, go ahead and like this video. Let's go ahead, take a gander back at that scene, and I'll be right back. Hang tight.
How you like that? You gon' like that? Da 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 da. You like that? Bada bing, bada boom, boom, boom. How you like that? Da 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 da. Now, look at you, now look at me. Look at you, now look at me. Look at you, now look at me. How you like that? Now, look at you, now look at me. Look at you, now look at me. Look at you, now look at me. How you like that?
Since the dinner, since your family dinner, so where you been?
There was a lot going on there.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Folks arguing, storming out.
Yeah, Lexi kind of went
Left.
yeah, real quick. Time passes by, she comes back, apologized. How do you feel about the dinner besides Lexi overall?
There was a lot of bullshit brought up.
What do you mean?
I want my dog back.
You got locked up. You didn't even pay me for that. You want your damn dogs back?
I have helped Chris with hiring you in, letting you come in.
I ain't get paid my last check.
What about all the time you sit your ass out back?
Okay, y'all, so I decided to just kind of break the clip up and just talk about like different segments. And I'm not even going to talk about the whole scene or, break up the whole scene in this video, just certain segments. And this particular piece, just the way the conversation started off, I had to go back and listen to it a couple of times because it felt like, to me, there could have been a better way to start this conversation with his son. And this is just, again, this is my opinion. In my opinion, I don't think it was cool that when Chris Jr. was asked about the family dinner and he said there was a lot going on, people storming out, etc., etc. I don't think it was cool to bring up Lexi and make it about Lexi. Now, I do like the way Chris diverted from it eventually and said, well, besides Lexi, how do you feel about the dinner overall? I feel like he should have started with that. So how do you feel about the dinner? Yeah, son, there was a lot going on, but how do you feel about the dinner overall? There's already a lot of negative feelings when it comes to Lexi, and I just personally feel that this particular way of starting the conversation just really didn't help. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying Lexi doesn't have her faults or anything like that, but I just feel like as a parent, and being in a situation when I was young with my other siblings, it's just not cool when a parent pits his children against, or her children against one another. I don't even know if I'm explaining this right so y'all can get it, because or you just get my feelings, get my opinion about it. I just feel like there's another way. And I feel like as parents, we have to be careful with our words when we're dealing with situations like this, because to Chris Sr.'s point, he wants the family to be able to come together. Well, that's kind of hard when we have pictures painted of each other that are not good pictures. So anyway, y'all, that was just my whole thing about this particular piece. And that's why I wanted to break it away from the whole entire segment and just talk about that piece, share my opinions about that piece, because I feel that we as parents, grandparents, we play such a major part in our children's lives, and we do play a part in sometimes their perception of each other, their perception of the other parent, especially if the other parent isn't in the home. And so just being careful of the words we use, because they do paint a picture. That's all I'm trying to say here, y'all. So anyway, let me just go ahead and drop the next clip.
That there's something that maybe we need to help Chris with, or
I just feel like we all got issues.
and we do.
I feel like all
we
the...
do. Nobody's perfect, but that's what family is for. You're supposed to come together, discuss these issues to try to help each other out. So what is your help? What is your savior? What is your go-to? Because you don't come around us for it.
A lot of times I go to the yo by myself at like about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Whew, okay, y'all. So I hear Chris Sr. saying that, family is where you should be able to go to when you need help. But I also, and I understand that, I get that that's what he would like for his family. And I'm not blaming him for that at all. That would be a beautiful thing in a perfect world, or that would be a beautiful thing if you had the type of situation with your family where you were able to do that. In my opinion, and just based on what we've seen or what I've observed on this show, that is not the case with the Fletcher family. They sat down at the family dinner and we saw how things went awry. There was a lot of finger pointing, a lot of judgment, words were flying left and right. It wasn't a situation where a person, in my opinion, would feel comfortable to come and sit down and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. Because they would be feeling like Chris Jr., like he was going to get judged, that he was going to get his finger pointed at. Like the one brother, I believe his name is Lance, the older boy. Actually, when Chris Jr. said, hey, I worked and you didn't pay me for the last day I worked, and he said, well, what about all the times before that you just sat around? I just say that that's a bunch of crap, okay? Like, if he worked, you should have paid him. And if there was a problem before, you should have had a conversation with him along the way. And you should have said that the consequence would be, if you continue, I'm not going to pay you for the last day you work. Because I'm sorry, that just would not fly with the labor board, right? That wouldn't fly with the labor board. I'm not saying that they have a labor-like situation. I don't know what their work situation is, or anything like that, as far as it pertains to the legalities aspect of it all. I'm just saying that I call crap on that. I think that was wrong of him. That's just my opinion. You owe the boy, pay him. If you did not have a conversation with him prior, if there was no prior warning, I don't know, maybe there was. I'm just going based on what we saw, and I know that production does a lot of editing, so maybe there's something that I'm missing. But just based on what we saw, I felt like that was wrong. And I also feel like I hear Chris Sr. saying that he is very concerned for his son, but his son doesn't feel safe coming around the family and having that conversation. So I hope, just like Chris Jr. was saying, we all have issues. So it's like there's something going on with every single member of that family. And that's Chris Jr. That's what I got from Chris Jr. And yeah, everybody does have something that they're dealing with in life, right? We all do. And so I feel like he's saying, and this is just my opinion, I feel like he's saying to his dad that you guys are in no position to point fingers at me, because all of us have something that we're dealing with. All of us have something that we're going through, but everyone's pointing the fingers at me. That's what I got out of it. Now, there are people who have said that Chris Jr. is a spoiled brat, that he's acting entitled, etc., etc. I don't know what his story is. I really don't know. He could be spoiled. He could have a sense of entitlement. I'm just talking about his emotions and what he's feeling right now. He could be very spoiled. I mean, obviously, his family was there, Nell, to come to his aid when he was in jail. And another thing I was thinking is, if he couldn't afford to bond himself out and he couldn't afford to take care of the dogs, how does she think she's going to get the money back? I mean, I don't know. Maybe he has something going on that I don't know about. But that's just something I was thinking about, too. I'm like, is this too hard of an ask? Too much of an ask? Because you're going to end up with the dogs forever. And the other thing I was thinking about is if Chris Jr. is dealing with depression, then these dogs sound like they're probably some type of an emotional support for him. Like, they help him deal with life. They help him deal with things. There are a lot of people who have pets that help them out emotionally. So that was just another thing I was wondering about. So anyway, y'all, here's my next little clip, and I'll come back with some more commentary.
You don't think that's a problem?
I ain't speak to nobody since the dinner.
But why, Chris? That's part of the dinner, trying to bring everybody together to be a family, and it always seems like you leave yourself out, or you're missing. You're not around.
I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like if I stay to myself and a lot of stuff that I do, I ain't gotta worry about people. Just so many opinions or saying I'm not doing something right. Ain't nothing wrong with taking criticism, but I realize being around the family a lot, it's a lot of it. I mean, of course we love each other. I love y'all, but I got a lot. I be trying to get my life together, and it be a lot when everybody got all these opinions.
Do you feel do you feel like we were picking on you, or?
I wouldn't say picking, but it's a lot of pointing the finger. Me, what I did, or something like that, or that's why like I told you, I be to myself. Like, Lance got a problem with me, Mom got a problem with me. Of course, Kiki and Kayla already think I'm crazy or got issues.
Okay, y'all, I don't know about y'all, but when I heard this young man saying that, the family already thinks he's crazy, he mentioned two of the young ladies. I don't know if it was his sister and his cousin, or both his sisters. I think it was his sister and his cousin. And he was saying that they both think he's crazy. They think he has issues. Oh, man. Can you imagine having to come to a family dinner when you're sitting there and you're feeling like there's this target on your back? Like you feel like the black sheep of the family, like you don't fit in with everyone else. Everyone else is eyeing you and judging you for what you did. So I'm not really sure. I mean, we don't know the extent of whatever his jail situation was. We don't know what that was all about, but it seems to me that the family probably keeps, and this is just my assumption, bringing that back up, throwing it in his face. And he feels pretty bad about it because he's still trying to figure his life out. But it's really hard to move forward when people are pulling you backward and reminding you of the things you did. Like, what you did, and it seems like he's regretful of the things he did. Like he said, he's dealing with some things and he's trying to get his life together. My hope is that this family will be able to work out their individual issues as well as being able to come together as a family and get down to the bottom of what is really going on with this family. But there's some other thoughts I have too about what could possibly be going on between Lexi and Nell, but I'll reserve that for another time as time moves on with the show and we find out more about the Fletchers, and I'm sure the streets of Huntsville will be talking soon. So anyway, y'all, that's all I have for you in this video. Don't forget, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. I'll be back. Until then, ciao.
How you like that?